All right, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Social Media Saturdays. The person that I have the pleasure to introduce is a powerhouse in business strategy and webinar marketing. She, who, Someone who has helped countless entrepreneurs scale their businesses with confidence and ease. She's also the founder and CEO of Vision Consulting, where she helps entrepreneurs develop and implement profitable business growth strategies. She's widely known as the webinar queen, using her expertise to teach business owners how to leverage webinars for lead generation and client engagement. She holds an MBA and brings a strategic, results-driven approach to helping businesses create sustainable revenue streams. With over a decade of experience, she's mastered the art of turning knowledge into impact, helping coaches and consultants turn their expertise into thriving businesses with intention. Now, I'm going to tell you what I love the most about her is her passion for educating and empowering entrepreneurs and making complex strategies simple and actionable so everyone can succeed. Please help me welcome none other than the webinar queen, DeKesha Williams. Round of
I was waiting for
applause.
the noise.
Oh my gosh. So DeKesha, before we jump into today's session, I really do have to give everyone a kind of our backstory.
Oh boy,
Okay. And so,
getting
oh my
ready to
gosh.
date us.
Yes, I was just about to say, how long has it been? I know it's definitely easy over 12 years since we've known each
Oh
other.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, work with each other. And I'm going to tell you, many of you have heard me share my story around showing up online and media Saturdays and how I was deathly afraid of the camera. And and in the story, if you've ever heard me share it, there's this one person I talk about all the time. Every time before I go live, I would have to call in the morning before I turn on my camera and go live. And so here she is. This is the person that I would call every Saturday morning before I turned on my camera to go live. Okay. So I am super excited, to have you not only as our guest expert today, but also a dear friend and support along my business journey as well. So I'm super excited.
Absolutely. I am excited to be here. And it's so funny because you have been dedicated to working on Saturdays. And I am a believer that on Saturdays I rest. So when Taria was
Oh,
calling
you're breaking up,
me
love.
at 9:45 and 9:30, I've got like one eye open. I'm like, you can do it, girl, you got it. So no, I'm excited and I'm proud of you for the journey and for the progression that you made. So I am here. I'm excited about what we're getting ready to have this conversation about. I'm happy to see some of my coaching students in the house on a Saturday morning. So yeah, let's go.
Okay. So as we were preparing to have this conversation today, one of the things that I thought would be really, really cool is to have a different conversation
Mhm,
around webinars
mhm.
and really deep dive into some of the unasked questions,
Okay.
the things that people really struggle with that no one is really talking about in the marketplace. Okay. And so I pay attention to do those things. So every time I open up my device, my phone, and I go to Instagram, it seems like there are 10 influencers, out there at least talking about doing webinars and how webinars, are so great and is a thing that you should do. Okay. And I agree. I wholeheartedly agree, but I know that there are some challenges that come up for people who are doing webinars that no one seems to address these challenges. And so
Yeah.
today we're going to kind of peel back the layers on some of those things. And so one of the things that came up in our conversation as we were preparing is why would anyone give you 60 to 90 minutes of their time on a webinar?
No, absolutely. Am I able to share my screen?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Let me make sure that you're able to do that. You can share your.
Because I have something that I want
Okay.
to show. I want to show everyone, and you can. This will answer that particular question. I call it the profit pyramid. Okay, and you guys can screenshot this. So here is. Can you see my screen?
Yep, we can.
So listen, this is the easiest answer to that question. Okay. And the numbers don't lie, even when you do, when you look at your business from a marketing standpoint, and that's where most of our concentration should be. Really, I believe it's 80% of what we do should be focusing on marketing our business. Okay. And a lot of people don't do that. They spend 80% behind the scenes doing and the building and in the business, where 80% should actually be the marketing piece. And webinars are another marketing tool in your business. So here's what I need you to understand when it comes to the numbers. Only 3% of your audience is ready, willing, and able to buy right now. So I know that we have some individuals that are in the coaching space. I know that we have individuals, I think everybody is so much pretty much in that coaching space, right?
Yeah.
So when you do a presentation, it doesn't matter if that presentation is virtual. It doesn't matter if that presentation is live and you're live in front of 400 people. You have about 3% of that audience that already know when they sat down in that chair, they're going to buy whatever it is that you were offering, right? Number one, they've done their research. They know who you are, or they've been recommended to you, and they've made the decision to move forward. They don't need a sales call. They don't need a webinar. They don't need they don't this is probably your easiest close that you will ever do.
Mhm.
And it's so funny that we're having this conversation because I did this yesterday. I was telling Taria, I literally did this yesterday. I had someone reach out to me. They called me twice and then they reached out to me. I called them. They told me straight up, it was not a sales call. They told me, listen, I know you're the one that I want to work with. She's not on my list. She hasn't seen my videos, but we closed a 10K deal yesterday and she hadn't seen a webinar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we love those, but how often does that really happen?
Right.
How often does that really happen?
Right.
It's not an everyday thing, okay? All right, so cool. So now you've got right, rare. So now you've got this next bucket of clients or potential clients, right? Your audience. And so they are familiar with your language. So for an example, Um, I am Darlene's ideal client, period, point blank, right? I'm her ideal client. I am in the position where I have been a caretaker and I've become a caretaker again. Okay. So I know what she does, right? There are some people that are like, oh, okay, well, I'm in the position of caretaking, or being a caregiver, and I know there's some resources out there, so I'm kind of open to it. Stephen, there's some individuals like spiritual intelligence, like, not really sure, not really sure what that means, but, kind of would like to hear more about it, right? And Deborah, podcasts. I heard that podcasts are the thing. But you know what? I'm kind of thinking about opening a podcast in 2025. I'm thinking about it. I'm open to it. Right?
Yeah.
Then you got that 30% that are like, nah, podcast not for me. You got that 30% that are like, you know what? Webinars are not for me. I've heard about them. But I'm not good at tech. It's the tech piece. Oh my God, right? It's always these objections. It's always these things that are making them make that decision. Say, yeah, I'm not really thinking about it right now. Maybe fourth quarter. Okay. Right? Does that sound right? maybe next
Yeah,
year.
and it's so funny. It's so funny that you're going through this because this morning, as I reached out to remind people, one of the responses I got back, someone says, I'm not your webinar girl, so I'm gonna sit this one out.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so she would fall in the 30% of, I don't believe that I'm interested,
Mhm.
right? So guess what a webinar does? And those 30% at the bottom, those are the people that I say that are sitting on a nail on the front porch and they're not going to get up until it hurts enough. So I leave them alone. I don't even have time for them because I ain't convincing anybody that this can work for them, right? So it's the 67% that we have to focus our marketing efforts on. We have to have the conversations with the people that are considering it, are open to it. Those that are, not really thinking about it, we have to position why your particular, what I call the ultimate goal of transformation, a UGT. So if podcast is the goal of transformation for their business, spiritual intelligence is the goal of transformation for their business. If self-care is the goal of transformation for a caregiver and creating boundaries. If your methodology is the solution to their problem, you have to teach them and show them value. And we use a webinar as a educational platform and a marketing tool to show them, one, why this tool can work, why my methodology has worked, other people that I've helped use this methodology and the results that they've been able to get, and then show them how working with you can help them reach the goals that they desire. So that, now let me ask you something. Based on this, just hearing that, would any of you, by raising your hand, sit with me for 60 minutes to learn more about how webinars can help you in your business?
Oh, yeah.
That's why they give me 60 to 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, right? Just depends on how the conversation goes. And why is that? Because I'm breaking it down and showing you how it brings value to your business.
Mhm.
People look at it as like, oh, Jesus, another webinar. But right? But you have to put them into your presentation. You have to position it where they see themselves. Does that help?
Mhm.
I love it. I see some heads
Yeah,
nodding.
I see Deborah's
Okay,
head is
great.
shaking.
So take a
So
screenshot before I unshare my screen.
okay. So what I wanted to also say, and I love how you laid this up, in your infographic, because it parallels the buyer's journey. Okay. And so a lot of times, like when we're out there and we're marketing, and I think I can't remember the young lady who asked the question about the content and how to use the content
Absolutely.
to get people to take action where they are, and then your responsibility is to walk them through, to meet them where they are in their journey, and then
Yes.
walk them through. And so one of the things, and I just have to chime this in because I say it all the time, this is why your content is so important. So sometimes people think like, hey, I have a topic, this is what I want to do a webinar on, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to put the promotions for the webinar out there. And then sometimes they're a little disappointed that people don't join the webinar, or they don't get the results or the registrations that they're looking for in the webinar. And they kind of forget that it's a journey. And so when you have those conversations, you have to be able to speak to the 67%. And I love that you broke it down, because what's standing out is that you will see the people at the top of the pyramid and the people at the bottom of the pyramid. Like, you don't really have to exhaust any energy there. Like, you don't spend the time with the people who know that this is not, for them. And then the people who are ready, you just have to be in the right place at the right time, and see them. And they're like, yes, I'm ready to go. Or they're actively seeking you out. But your marketing efforts is concentrated on the middle 67%.
Correct. And so, and it's not that you can't market to the 3%, but what I find is most entrepreneurs spend majority of their time trying to market to that 3%. Whereas you can actually create a content strategy that speaks to people that are familiar with your topic, your area of expertise, but they just haven't pushed the button. They just haven't swiped the credit card, right? And I can market to the young lady that set out today, right? I love that. That's the ones that I market to. I love that. That is that bottom 30% that they don't believe that they're interested, right? And so I would create content specifically for that audience. So there's three different audiences in that middle bucket that you can develop content specifically for. So it's for the people that are open to it, but they just haven't taken action, right?
Mhm.
And it may be because they don't know. So those are the people that y'all in the right room today.
I love
Those
it.
are the people that you create the how to content for, right?
Ah, okay.
So here's how to start your podcast. And we cannot be afraid of giving away too much information. We got to stop that. That's so 2014. And it's like, oh, just give them a little bit. Nah, let me tell you something. I'll sit here and tell you all the follow-up email sequence that you need to put in your business. Because you know what? You still gonna have some questions, and who you gonna come to? DeKesha, I got a question about this template that you sent me. Yes, let me go ahead and give you a link so you can book a power hour call. And that's how you have to position it. So you can't be afraid about giving too much information and then not even thinking about it. Like this is this would be a great content strategy to share stories.
Mhm.
And we talked about that. I was like, we supposed to be talking about sharing stories. The middle section is a great place to tell stories,
Yeah.
right? I could sit here and tell you how Taria and I, we did 8 webinars in 30 days. You remember that?
Yep,
I
sure
still
did.
tell that story. I
Sure
still tell
did.
that story to this day that we sat down, we were challenged to do 8 presentations in 30 days. And this is where I was like, man, webinars don't work, man. We was like, all right, let's do it though. Let's do it, right? And I ended up making $15,000 in commission in 21 days. Did I not, Taria?
Yeah, we both
21 days.
did. We both did. I think
Okay. We made
that month we did it at the time was our highest revenue generating
whoop.
month. We
And
became
that
believers.
was the moment where I realized this actually works.
Yeah.
That was the moment where I realized that this actually works and it can work for any industry. So you see how you can create specific content around the audiences? Okay, that's it. I'm done.
No,
But I
but
wanted to make sure I think I got Barbara's question and Darlene.
so I like what you just did here. And for those of you out there who are struggling, with content, because that's my space, in social media, you're connecting conversations, and that's what it's all about. Okay. And so if we just take a look at this and we say when we're writing, our content, how do we position our content or write our content to address each of these segments? Okay. And then the reason why the stories are so important is because the stories are your experiences. Okay. So based around, your experience in your market, the things that you do in your business, bring those stories to life for people. Share those stories in your content because those are the connecting pieces. Okay, so it's good to always, share like the how to, but people also want to know the why. And people
Mm,
will connect around your why, and your stories give them the opportunity to not only see that you know what you're talking about, but this is why you do what you do. They could see themselves in your place. So I love it. Okay. So I have another question, DeKesha, because this is another thing, I pay attention, and I'm not even going to put it on anybody else. I don't see me too, because I find myself doing this. I see a
Okay.
topic that I'm interested in, and I like, oh, this is a great topic. But guess what? Um, I might not be 100% committed to showing up on the day and time because I know that there is going to be a replay. So, do you think that
Mm.
people are conditioned now on webinars to get the replays, and that's why they don't show up live on webinars?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say that it's why they don't show. Um, they didn't see the value in the content that you're going. If they didn't take the time to schedule it to be there live, I don't think that they see enough value in the content that you're going to deliver. But here's how um you can create a excitement, okay?
Okay.
So, one of the things that we do is I give you a show up bonus. You
Ah, I like
only
that.
get it if you show up to today's training. You only get it if you show up to today's training. And then watch this. You can do one or two things. And I have an additional bonus if you stay to the end. So I have so much content that I could I could easily say, I tell you what, if you show up, I'm going to share with you my most profitable webinar funnel. I'll give you behind the scenes, right? What am I losing? And if you stay to the end, I'll give you the SOP that I give to my clients for effective follow-up. What am I losing? I just said to you earlier, if I give you my emails, you can still have questions about what to put in them, or, when should I do this or when should I do that? So you're still going to come back to me. So that increases your show up rate, and then it increases how many eyes are on the actual offer at the end. So, and then here's what I do too. You only get 3 days to watch my replay. And that's if I decide to have a replay. Now, the numbers say that a majority of the people, about 30%, I believe, 30% of people actually watch the replay. So it's a
Mhm.
good thing to actually give it to them, but you have to create the scarcity. So we
Yeah.
only give 3 days. It ain't gonna be living out there forever. Like, you're not gonna be able to click this link and be able to see it next month. Nah, sweetie. No sugar. Not no.
Yeah. So this is good, right? And the reason why I'm asking is because once again, I see a lot of things that's happening in marketing. And one of the things that, people put upfront in the marketing is register, if you can, is like in the marketing register. And if you register, you'll be able to get the replay, right? And so what I'm hearing is not that the replay is bad, but you have to be able, or offering the replay or saying, hey, you get the replay,
I
but
don't
make
promote
sure.
that.
Well, I see some people promoting it.
Yeah, I don't promote
And
that.
so that might be the reason why people are struggling out there, because I've actually seen that in copy, and then people
Mhm.
come back and they say, oh my gosh, like my webinar attendance was low. Okay. And
Why?
so it goes into number one, how are you building in the value? What are some of the things that you should be saying in your promotional copy? And then, like you say, building in the scarcity and the urgency,
Mhm.
around the replays. Okay, good stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so now, what are three things people should do? Well, actually, let's talk a little bit before we go into this.
Okay.
Um, live webinars versus automated webinars. I know I get a
Let's talk
smile.
about it.
I know
Let's
I get a
talk about
smile.
it. So here's my deal, and Darlene will tell you. We do not automate a webinar in our space until you know it converts. Okay? There
Ooh,
is no
fire. Well,
reason.
where's my fire? Where's
Your fire emoji?
my fire
Okay, well, let
reaction?
me say this again for the people in the cheap seats. Nugget. We do not automate a webinar until we know it converts. Why are you going to sit here and drive traffic to a presentation that you don't even know if you've never made sales from this presentation? That's what baffles me about when I hear people say, well, I want an automated webinar. I'm like, well, have you done it live? No. What? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, so you're telling me you want to automate something that you don't even know if it worked. Mm-mm.
So,
Get somebody else to do it.
so DeKesha,
Yes, ma'am.
and this is so good. And this is why we're having this type of conversation, because we see a lot of things online.
Absolutely.
Right? We see a lot of, people out there, touting the greatness of,
Yes.
automation, right? And build your funnel.
Yeah.
We was having this conversation yesterday, right? Build your funnel. And then you know what? The quickest path for you to get rich and go lay out on the beach somewhere is that you have this funnel, and then you go ahead and you turn on ads to the funnel, and then voila, poof,
Mhm.
instantaneous success, right?
Well, and that matches what people see online, right? So people may look at me and be like, "Oh my God, she's got this great life. She's running a successful business and she's done these webinars." But they don't know that in 2013, I was barely paying my bills. Like they don't know in 2014, we were sitting on Zooms trying to figure this ish out. They don't know that part. They don't know it wasn't until 2018 that I had my first five-figure launch. What? 2018 was the first year that we hit six figures. Baby, this did not happen overnight. And I think a lot of people forget that, right? And so I partner with one of the webinar platforms, Easy Webinar, Casey Zeman. They call me every year to fly out to sell. Okay. I was in the room with over 100 entrepreneurs, and the majority of them use webinars. But watch this. Each of them have automated webinars. But if you only knew they were doing these webinars every single week and tweaking
Wow.
every single piece, meaning they might tweak the opening, and then the following week they do the exact same presentation, and then they might tweak strategy one, and then they repeat the whole entire webinar. They might tweak the sales piece, they might tweak the offer, they might tweak the emails. By the time you know it, 6 months of tweaking has
Yeah.
gone by before it starts to convert at 8 to 10% and another 5 to 8% on the back end.
I love that, right? Because it's so good to have these real conversations, because I see how people get so disenchanted or frustrated. That's the word that I'm
Mhm.
looking for. They get frustrated with things because they really don't understand that it's a process. Okay. It's a process. And I love what you're sharing, because a lot of times what people put forward like is the money, right? So
Yes.
I'm going to have a webinar, and then on this webinar, what I'm going to do, I'm going to generate $50,000. I'm going to generate $20,000.
Mhm.
A golden
Oh, there we
opportunity.
go.
And the golden opportunity is to learn. Okay. So as you go through the process, yes, it's wonderful. And you should be thinking about revenue. I'm not, putting that aside, but I think the greater gift is, what are you learning coming through the process? So do you sit back, after you do a webinar and your results weren't so great, do you throw your hands up in the air and say, this ish don't work? I'm
Right.
never doing this again. Let me move on to the next strategy. Or do you have the courage to sit back and say, like, hey, let me go peel this back and see what worked, and the things that work, what resonated, I'm going to keep that. And then what are some of the areas that need work? Go ahead and do the work and then get at it again. And so this is one of the things for, my students who are in here. I say, put it. Now I'm not going to lie. I say every week.
I'm trying to, but if you've ever read Russell Brunson's,
and, 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 and no,
what is it? Are they somewhere back there? Expert Secrets.
uh-huh,
If you've
uh-huh.
ever read Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets, he tells you to do the exact same webinar 52 times.
Yeah.
The
So
exact same webinar.
So that's what I was going to say. So I would be so out of integrity to say that I do it every week. So I'm not going to be out of integrity. But I do believe, at least, do it once a month, do
Right.
it every other week, the same thing. So you get the opportunity to learn, tweak, and grow. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay. Okay. Anything else that you want to add, or I want to, pause and ask anyone if they have any questions, anything popping out for them. Let me go to the chat because I'm seeing some stuff in here. People really like the show up bonus. There's always more information to share. You create the reasons for them to schedule an appointment with you. And yes, this is,
Yeah.
what we all should be thinking about, not just that one event, right? But how can we build that process? So after you, even before, you do your webinar, you do anything, how are you building into your process and thinking about it? Well, what will cause them, to get on the phone? What will cause them to take a deeper step with me? So I love it. I see the mic is dropping. Gratification syndrome. Darlene is saying, you are helping me. Thank you. Great information. This is powerful. And then Deborah is saying, can I ask DeKesha a question? Okay, so go ahead. Deborah, you can ask a question.
Hi, DeKesha. I have a question for you. And this is not, I don't know if you can compare a challenge with a webinar, but I love when you said that you give a show up bonus and you have an additional bonus if you stay to the end. And I've heard people say that plenty of times with webinars that I watch. My problem is when I have my challenge, I have issues getting people to show up. It's a free challenge. I don't know if they don't think it's worth their time or because it's free. I have asked about should I charge, and I was told no, do not charge. Thanks, Taria. But my thing is, how do you get people to really be interested, that raise their hand and said, yes, I'm interested, but when it comes to the day when you kick it off, no one's there, or two people are there, even though you've invited 45, 50 people, whatever the number may be.
So it's
Yeah.
I love challenges. Challenges is the launch that I used to have my first 5-figure launch. I did the webinar challenge back in 2018, right? So challenges still work. And again, it's all about the value and the excitement that you create. Okay. So what is it? Here's how you have to position it too. And you might have to do some research, okay, for your audience. What are they looking to accomplish? So whatever that challenge is, I tell them you'll be able to. I think you'll be able to structure your first webinar by the end of my challenge. Like what? I'll be able to do what? So I'm giving you something that you can walk away with and implement in the next 5 days. I'm not just giving you like high level content on why the webinars work. No, every day's exercise is a step towards building the actual webinar. So I'll give you a perfect example. If you are doing one for a podcast, if I give you steps every day, your challenge, day one, create a podcast topic, day two, create a, go find a podcast software that you're going to want to use. Day three, create the first 5 episode scripts or topics, right? And day 5 is record your first episode. And then what I do on day 5 is I do a webinar. So I teach my students to do a challenge with a webinar, not just a challenge. So on day 5, your assignment is to register for the webinar.
Okay.
You know what? Guess what I'm going to teach in the webinar? How to monetize the podcast.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now,
So they should show up because they want to find out how to do that. Yes.
now you're going to,
okay.
so wait, you taught me how to put this methodology in place and I had to pay you? And then you're going to tell me how to make money from it? What time you start? What time you start?
Okay.
So it's all about the content. It's all about the content that you include in your challenge. It has to be, people are looking for results and they're looking for results right now.
Got it.
They are not looking for more information. They can Google that. They can chat GPT that. They are looking for implementation. What can I do by the end of this call?
Yeah.
Okay.
An easy way to think about it is like, what are the immediate wins that you could provide? Okay. So what are the immediate wins? If someone spends, 3 days, 5 days, 2 hours, 90 minutes, okay, what's the one thing or 2 things that they could immediately do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Every day of that challenge should be a step closer to them getting the goal or the desired result. Not just more information. You're welcome. You're welcome. Great question.
Okay, so Stephen, I think this is a comment from you, right? It is webinar creative structuring, not a question, but a comment. Did I get that right? Okay, awesome. Okay, so DeKesha, what are 3 things that people should consider when they're doing automated webinars?
When they're doing automated webinars, or what should they automate? Oh, well, let me answer your question first. First and foremost, make sure that you're converting before you automate it.
Okay.
Okay. When you automate webinars, I would collect the phone numbers so that you can send an SMS reminder to increase your show rate. When you automate, I would, and this is probably going to be, I don't know if you asked me for a number. When you're automating, I would select a platform, a webinar platform.
Okay.
Zoom is not a platform to run an automated webinar on, okay? Because you have to think about, if you're driving traffic to a registration page and then there's a viewing page, like Zoom stores stuff in a cloud, right? And then some people want to put their videos on a landing page or something like that. Here is the most important piece once you start to automate webinars. You have to pay attention to the KPIs. You cannot just set it and forget it. You have to pay attention to your opt-in rate on your registration page. You have to pay attention to your show-up rate for your webinar live page. You have to pay attention to your conversion rate. What percent of people are actually showing up and actually buying? What percentage of people are actually staying to the end? Where are you losing people? You have to watch this stuff every single week, every 2 weeks. Once you actually put it in position, it converts, you have to know what KPIs are important because you got to know where to go in and make adjustments. Otherwise, you're just going to be losing money.
So let me ask you this, like you're talking about that. This just came to my mind. Right? So the 2 are 2 totally different experiences, at least how I'm thinking about it. So you have a live webinar, and a live webinar is a totally different experience because you have
Yes.
energy in the room. You have the opportunity to get questions answered, feedback, things like that. You address people's needs, right then and there on a live webinar. So
Yes.
what are some of the things that you could do to kind of mirror that type of experience on an automated webinar?
So I would prefer not to pre-record an automated webinar. I actually
Okay,
like to convert a live webinar into an automated webinar. But you have to
awesome.
be very intentional when you do that, because if you're like me and I'm recording in football season, I might say something in my webinar and I'm talking about my son's upcoming game. Well, if I'm still playing that webinar in February, he ain't playing no more. All right.
Right.
I could be sitting here and I could do a live webinar and I could be like, oh my God, it's so beautiful outside on this Saturday. Oops, well, I'm doing a replay on Monday. So you just have to be very intentional when you're doing a live webinar and you know that you're doing it with the intention of converting it. You have to be very mindful of your language. And so when we get into our educational mode, when we get into storytelling, I don't know about you, but I get excited. I just get to talking and telling and sharing. And next thing you know, I shared something that dates the actual webinar. So you have to be very careful, because now this automated webinar is not, I mean, it's not a live webinar. Like, and you're positioning it as show up live. It's not live. It's pre-recorded.
Yeah.
So you just have to be very mindful and very intentional about your language when you convert a live to a webinar. And I really don't like pre-recording webinars, because when you pre-record, sometimes you're just talking to yourself, so you really don't feed off the energy and you start to sound like this in your webinar, and that's really gonna bore me, and I'm gonna turn it off really quickly. But see, I see the smiles. The smiles make me smile, so it shifts my energy with my presentation, right? Y'all know I'm telling the truth.
Yeah, it's all about the energy. Like I say, it's all about the experience, right? Because I do believe that no matter what it is you choose to do, your audience should have a great experience, through it. So I love
Absolutely.
that. Okay. And so we talked about the some of the things that you should do in an
Okay.
automated webinar. And I think you kind of touched about right there, like the things not to do in an automated webinar. So are there any other things that you would like to share what not to do?
Uh, I think we hit the button on most of them, right?
Okay.
So yeah, I think for the most part we got on what not to do. But and I don't want to, deter anyone from doing it. But I just need you to understand that you got to put in the work before you can convert it. Got to put in the work before you convert it.
Okay. All right. So DeKesha,
Yes.
before we go into the Ask the Expert session, just go ahead and tell everyone how they could connect with you. And if you have a free resource that you're offering, how can they get the resource?
Oh, awesome. So yeah, so of course you can Google, like here's the great part. This is what branding is all about. You literally can Google the webinar queen and you will find me. But I do most of my hanging out in on Facebook or in my private community. If it's okay, I'd love to put the link for the private community in here. I do have a free offer for you guys. It's the webinar checklist. So it is, I want to say, let me make sure, www.thewebinarchecklist.com. And then we're going to put that in the chat. It's thewebinarchecklist.com. You got to make sure the stuff works, y'all, this before we start driving traffic to it. But I did test it the other day, so hopefully it does work for you guys. It's pending. I mean, it's spinning. But yeah, so please connect with me on social media. I'll put the link to our free community, thewebinarchecklist.com. Don't hesitate to be a stranger. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I think I put my LinkedIn um in the chat earlier. I can put it in there again. Thank you. And depending on your internet, it's a little spinning, but the webinar checklist should work. And you can get my free webinar checklist. It'll, walk you through the steps of what you need to have in place to create a profitable webinar. So I am DeKesha Williams, your webinar strategist. Be passionate, be purposeful, but more importantly, be profitable. Taria, I'm going to turn it over to you and grab the link.
Okay. All right. So I would love to say, DeKesha, once again, thank you for joining us on an amazing social media Saturdays. This has been amazing. Super excited to have you as one of our guest expert in the community. And for those of you who are, watching, make sure down below the video, you grab the free resources.